On behalf of CILT India Expo 2018, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you. मैं सोनाली शर्मा आपका दिल से स्वागत करती हूँ. Happy Guru Nanak Jayanti to everyone. My heartiest wishes to everyone on this auspicious occasion. May this Guru Purab brings lots of joy and happiness in your life. गुरु नानक जी कहते हैं कि कर्म भूमि पर फल के लिए श्रम सबको करना पड़ता है. रब सिर्फ लकीरें देता है और रंग हम सबको भरना पड़ता है. I hope this conference brings a colorful vision for all of us. Indian logistic industry is estimated at around $215 billion, which is growing at over 10% annually. Formation of an integrated plan is important as the cost of logistics for India is about 14% of its GDP. On the other hand, it is only 7 to 8% in developed countries. Honorable Minister Shri Suresh Prabhu said yesterday that government is preparing an integrated logistic plan to fast-track movement of goods and art transaction at cost of business, and this would integrate all sectors of transportation. Today's topic of discussion is integrated logistics, and I would like to call upon Shri Anil Gupta, former CMD CONCOR, to chair the proceeding. I welcome Shri Anil Gupta, former CMD CONCOR. Shri Anil Gupta's specialist expertise and skills in the areas of marketing and commercial activities, ports and shipping, railway operations, and intermodal and landside transport, logistic and distribution helped CONCOR reach great heights, making it undisputable market leader with over 75% market share. On professional front, Anil Gupta has been associated with a large number of professional research work for World Bank, IBRD, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shri Anil Gupta, former CMD CONCOR. For lead address, we have with us Mr. Joseph Lim, Sales Director, Blujay Solutions. I request him to come up on the dais. Mr. Joseph is a highly experienced regional sales leader in the supply chain, industrial automation, and security space. His highly consultative and collaborative approach has helped many organizations achieve business improvements and increased profitability through value-driven solutions and automation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Joseph Lim, Sales Director, Blujay Solutions. We also have with us Shri Anant Swarup, Joint Secretary, Logistics, Department of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. Shri Anant Swarup, 1992 batch of Indian Railway Personnel Service. He has served as ex-director to Minister for Railways for 3 years, and he has been India's negotiator at the World Trade Organization at Geneva. Please welcome Shri Anant Swarup. We have also very eminent speakers with us. Mr. Sanjay Swarup, Director, International Marketing and Operations, CONCOR. I request him to come up on the dais. He has professional experience of around 3 decades in BHEL, Indian Railways, and CONCOR. He has rich experience of design, operation, and management of dry ports and management of railway operations, commercial and safety. He has been trained at Syracuse University, USA, and Antwerp Port, Belgium. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Sanjay Swarup. We're fortunate to have with us Shri Ashish Gupta, Regional Logistic Head, Shell India Marketing Private Limited. He is well recognized and has awarded with LSC Leader of Teams Award 2016 for leading North Logistic Team, Spot Recognition Award for contribution to opening of a new third-party contractual manufacturing site in North 2017, VP Award for Cost Competitiveness 2018 for leading depot rationalization project. Please welcome Shri Ashish Gupta. And now I'll hand over the mic to Shri Anil Gupta, former CMD CONCOR, to start with the proceeding.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my proud privilege to be a part of this proceeding of CILT, which is very timely for the logistics sector because, as you know, with the things, the way they are looking up, logistics becomes a great opportunity and a challenge. As was mentioned by the lady just now, logistics costs are around 14% of our GDP. And it could be around 7 to 8%. So there is this 6 to 7% fat of GDP which is affecting both our cost structure and making us uncompetitive in the international market, which is a matter of concern. How this can be brought down? Why is it so high? One view is that it is because of various variety of logistics players that we have who all end up providing different services which are totally disaggregated. As a result, customer doesn't gain, and customer has to pay for N services, and if there is an integrated logistics provider, he becomes a N+1 player. So he has to pay for N+1 and has to look for margins of all of them. As a result of which, if the cost could be contained to 18% of the product, if the logistics cost could be contained to be 18%, it turns out to be 23%. Are we not capable of bringing integration? Are we not capable of finding solutions which can result in better costs? These are the questions of challenges. These are the challenges which are very, very important for us. So today I have this distinguished panel through which we will deliberate on some of these aspects as to how to bring integration in all the logistics services that we are seeing. We have Mr. Lim. Joseph Lim is the sales director of Blujay Solutions, which is a leading software company in the field of e-commerce. They are basically providing packages, they are providing solutions which can help different services integrate on an e-platform. There are a lot of talks about IoT, M2M. We would like Mr. Lim to provide an answer to these and guide us on this particular aspect. Mr. Lim is the lead speaker for this. So I'll request Mr. Lim to introduce this subject and give us specific views on this. We have 20 minutes time for you, Mr. Lim. I would suggest that you please reserve your questions for the end. At the end of the session, after all 4 speakers have spoken, we'll have a QA session where you can raise your doubts about any particular doubts if you have about Mr. Lim's presentation. Mr. Lim.
Thank you, sir, for the great introduction. I think today we want to talk about some of the trends in the market space for logistics, how Blujay Solutions sees some of these trends in the market space. And at the end of the day, I think we also want to look at some of the key touch points, some of the key areas that we as consumers, we as logisticians, that we care about on a daily basis. What are some of the measurements that we have actually seen in the market space, and how does that impact logistics, the logistics industry as a whole? Okay. So maybe first of all, I wanted to start off with maybe giving a bit of context as to who Blujay Solutions is, and then I will go in depth into the study that we actually undertake with Adelante, a research firm, and then I'll share through the research paper. So for Blujay Solutions, we are the experts in supply chain and global trade. Our solutions are actually help a lot of customers be fast, on time deliveries as well as safe. We have over 7,500 global customers globally. We conduct business across 112 countries. We are headquartered in London in UK, but presence globally, including so-called offices in India itself. So we're based out of Hyderabad for India itself. And if you can see across Asia Pacific, we are well represented from north right down to south, from offices in Shanghai, offices in Hong Kong, in Tokyo, in India, in Singapore for Asia Pacific, Melbourne in Australia, as well as Christchurch in New Zealand. So pretty well covered across Asia Pacific. So it's a big so-called space for us. It's a big growth engine for us, for Asia Pacific. And that's where we are actually focusing on today. And we have actually put in quite a fair bit of investment within the region itself. So 10 data centers across 3 continents and $37 billion being transacted on our platform. So this year is our 45th anniversary. So we've been 45 years in this particular business. We're private equity owned. So we are owned by Francisco Partners as well as Temasek Holdings out from Singapore. And I think some of the folks in this room might know us from our legacy branding. So the Blujay Solutions branding only came about maybe about 18 months, 24 months ago. So we did this rebranding because the company has acquired quite a fair bit of so-called companies along the way. And we were looking more like a holding company than actually a solutions company. So the CEO decided that, hey, it's time for us to come together, rebrand, have one single look and feel out in the market space. So previously, you might know us as Keywheel, you might know us as iPax, Forsoft out in India, Lean Logistics in the US, Black Bay in the Australia, New Zealand market space. Okay, so just to give a bit of scope as well as to where do we sit, how are we positioned in the market space itself. So we are ranked about number 4 in the whole Gartner Magic Quadrant. So of course we are, I think in the challenger space, we challenge the top guys, you know, the JDAs, the Oracles, as well as the SAP of the world. So for us, and we have actually just entered an additional ranking under the Gartner Multi-Enterprise Supply Chain Business Network. It was just published on the 15th of November. So pretty recent Gartner report. And we've actually have 2 segments that we actually rank within 2 segments of that Gartner report. So you can see that we're ranked pretty high in terms of customer retention, in terms of customer satisfaction, and of course in terms of the ability to execute in this particular space. Okay, so just to maybe give a quick snapshot, 1,100 plus employees around the world. But that said, a big chunk of it, we are invested in India very, very heavily. We have almost 300 staff in India, so you can see that a big 25% of our global workforce actually works out from our India office itself. So you can see we are very heavily vested within the India market space. 1.9 billion transportation transactions processed annually on our platforms. 4.5 billion boxes shipped, and 7,500 customers worldwide. Okay, so I'll jump straight into the survey background and what were some of the findings that we actually came out from the survey. So first of all, we always start with some hypothesis when we go through a survey, and we start with also what we are trying to achieve. So we ask ourselves these questions, right? Is customer experience becoming critical to supply chain performance? I think all of us are e-commerce users. You know, we buy products of Flipkart, we buy products of Amazon globally and so forth. So customer experience is pretty important. We want to find out more about a product. We actually can very easily maybe send a message to the supplier itself or to the seller itself, right? We want to know where our packages are. You know, those kind of data, those kind of information at our fingertips drives the customer satisfaction scores right up. And if you have a good so-called shopping experience, you've got a good experience with this logistics provider, and not just e-commerce, right? We're talking about even B2B, we're talking about even freight forwarding and so forth. You want to have that information at your fingertips. That drives customer satisfaction up itself. So we ask ourselves, is customer satisfaction becoming more critical to supply chain performance? And what is driving supply chain innovation? Third question that we want to talk about is, what is stalling supply chain innovation? So not just where the trends are in terms of innovation, but also what is the barriers? What what are the barriers that we see, and what technologies will pull the next wave of innovation through supply chain. As we all know, we have great ideas, we could execute it in a very nice small team, in a pilot and so forth, but the way to scale with any organization is actually through technology. We are able to drive more automation, we're able to drive a lot more compliance, a lot more so-called processes that are controlled in a way through the systems itself, systematically controlled, that actually drive that higher adoption, drive that higher so-called throughput around the organization. Not just a small pilot with a small team, which is much easier to control. Okay, so we've actually, how do we do it? How do we send out the survey? So we had a March 2018 online survey for supply chain and logistics professionals. So respondents includes the shippers, the manufacturers, the retailers, logistics services providers, and others across the globe within the logistics space, with customers that means companies with a revenue of more than 250 million USD. Those are the respondents that we actually went after. Okay, the full report can be had at the particular link down there, so I will not go more into it. Maybe just to go a bit about the survey highlights. And I think since all of us are logisticians in this space, we want to see these three things happen. I think all of us have the same thing. We see this on the board, and the first time I see the results of the survey, I say, yes, exactly. This is what we want, right? We want to deliver and enhance customer experience. We want our customers to be happy. We want to make sure that we have on-time delivery at the lowest cost, right? Meeting the customers' requirements, meeting the customers' KPIs, right? For B2Bs, right? Your customers will be measuring us, logistics services providers and so forth, on KPIs. How do we then measure our vendors, our carriers and so forth on the same KPIs and so forth? So deliver and enhance customer experience to reduce costs. I think the last day and a half we've been talking about how do we be competitive? How do we actually reduce costs to actually make us more relevant in this market space and to create a competitive advantage? So because we drive the cost, we drive the customer satisfaction, that's something that creates something that no one can replicate. Takes a long time, takes a fair bit of investment in order to replicate that, right? And you can see we actually split this survey into two chunks, right? We have the innovators and the early adopters, and the laggards, the late majority. That means who adopts technology and how does that translate to their supply chain performance? So we ask this question, is delivering an enhanced customer experience a defined and measured objective within your organization? So if you look at the innovators and the early adopters on those that so-called adopts technology pretty readily, 76% say, yes, we measure this. We measure customer experience as a measured objective in our space. And the laggards, late majority, about 51.2% say that, hey, we measure customer satisfaction as a measured objective. But if you look at the supply chain performance coming from this space, that means above average performance or average or below performance, measuring the early adopters, the innovators versus the laggards and the late majority, I think we can see a very significant correlation between how you scale, how you scale some of that measurements, how you measure, how you keep track of that measurement, and actually that supply chain performance, right? And the top 5 barriers, I think, remember the 4 questions that we asked as to what are some of the barriers that actually stop supply chain innovation. So I think the top 5, you can see, existing IT systems are outdated. The customer is calling, the customer has requested on email, the customer has asked me, send me a short app to say, where are my goods? Full stop. If my systems are outdated, if I'm not able to have those data at my fingertips, hey, I can't provide no customer service, right? So existing IT systems are outdated. That's ranked really high, almost 20.4% of the respondents say that. Siloed systems or processes, that means the information could be sitting at another department, and I don't have access to it, right? Lack of flexibility, innovation of supply chain partners, that means my carriers, the people that I partner with, right? Lack of support from IT and other functional groups, like I said, maybe the siloed system as well as the processes, and change management hurdles. So this was what was found out from the survey itself. So looking 5 years ahead, right? So looking 5 years ahead, we've actually asked this question: which technologies will have delivered the most supply chain innovation benefits? We've asked the respondents. And you can see that it's ranked really high in terms of, right now, everyone has I would say that penetration for smartphones is crossed 95%, right? Maybe at the 98% mark globally and so forth. And so mobile devices and apps, that's really core. Control tower visibility, that means not just having that siloed view, but across your system itself. That means across your ERP, across your manufacturing resource planning solution, across your warehouse management solution, across your last mile and so forth. How do we get that whole control tower visibility? Warehouse automation robots. I think we spoke about Industrial 4.0 as well, so that fits into it. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, driverless trucks, blockchain, drones, 3D printing. So it's ranked that way in terms of in terms of the survey results. So we've also asked these questions among the innovators and the laggards, right? What systems do you currently use to manage your supply chain? So you can see that the innovators as well as the early adopters, a big chunk of them have a systematic approach to actually manage their supply chain. That means compliance, they're able to control their business logic, they're able to control their business flow. If you look at 56.3, using WMS, using transportation management solutions as well out in the market space, so that I immediately know where my goods are, I'm able to give to my customers. But a big chunk of that laggards and late majority is actually still using spreadsheets and Excel spreadsheets. That means a very manual way. Okay? So if at the end of the presentation, one of the questions is that, hey, the numbers don't add up to 100%, okay, because I asked myself that question as well, so there's no need to ask because the respondents can check all that apply, so it actually goes more than 100%, okay, just to clarify that. So the top supply chain investment priorities, this is across the board for all the survey results that we want to see, and that helps to shape our industry, helps to shape all of us. That means, what do we think about day in, day out? Transportation, supply chain visibility, warehousing, analytics. I want to drive my decision based on data. I don't want to drive my decision based on gut feel. I don't want to drive my decision based on, hey, anecdotal evidence from one case that is out of 1% out of the 99 other percent. I want to drive my decisions based on analytics, based on BI, as well as partner connectivity. How do I engage with the larger ecosystem and not just silo itself, right? So, in summary, I think I spoke a fair bit about the survey results as well. So in summary, we've actually kind of summarized, and we found out that supply chain innovation is not well understood. So one company's supply chain innovation could be another company's process improvement. It does not need to be groundbreaking. A lot of it, actually the data is available. A lot of the things that we can give our customers to improve our customer service, the data is all available right now. It's sitting somewhere siloed, it's sitting on an Excel spreadsheet, on a planner's laptop and so forth. how do we draw that data out, right? So it doesn't need to be creative. It doesn't. It is something that is small incremental improvements. Customer experience drive innovation at supply chain leaders. Technology plays an important role. Innovation gains cannot be scaled without technology. I think I started with that assumption as well. And you can see that tech adoption is key to supply chain innovation as well as performance. And you can see that the innovators and the early adopters versus the laggards and the late majority. The innovators and the early adopters have a more than above average supply chain innovation ranking versus the laggards and the late majority in terms of technology adoption. They have a slightly below average so-called supply chain performance ranking. Okay, and to conclude, I think it's very important for us as logisticians to think about putting customer service as a real KPI for not just ourselves, not just our carriers, not just our ecosystem partners as well, but I think it's something that our customers measure us by. So it has to flow down. It has to flow down systematically. So with that, thank you very much. The survey results, if you all want to read more about it, you can download it off that link itself. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lim, for that comprehensive presentation about the requirements. It has been realized for a long time, and I think all agencies have been working on it. But yes, we are very far from where we could be. E-filing, for instance, has been on the agenda for last 5-6 years. Successful e-filing modules have been developed, but still it is not fully adopted by all the players for different reasons. So all those issues, all those resistances to the systems are there to be studied and solutions to be found. In this respect, I think I laud the role of government taken recently in last 2 years. Government has decided to create this Department of Logistics in Ministry of Commerce. This was a main problem for last 20 years. We didn't know who was responsible, who was supposed to be coordinating. It was Ministry of Commerce for some issues, Ministry of Shipping for some issues, Ministry of Road and Transport for some issues, Ministry of Railways, and with the result that nobody was owning the baby. It is a very, very momentous decision that government took of creating this Department of Logistics. We are fortunate in having Mr. Sanjay Swarup, Mr. Anant Swarup, Joint Secretary of this department, who's been associated with some of the important measures that government is taking on this front of promoting integrated logistics. Mr. Swarup is also responsible for creating this new index ranking states on the basis of logistics performance, which is also very, very important, putting pressure on a lot of states to improve their logistics performance and to serve the industries. This will definitely go a long way in creation, not only creation of an optimal logistics infrastructure, but movement towards integrated logistics. I'll request Mr. Anant Swarup to please tell us about the plan of the ministry for moving towards integrated logistics management in next few years. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for the introduction. Thank you, CILT, for the invitation. Today's topic for discussion is integrated development of logistics. And as Mr. Gupta mentioned, very recently, the Government of India has realized the importance of logistics and have created a new division in the Department of Commerce dealing exclusively with logistics. So I'll begin my presentation with a short film. It's a 2-minute film on the work which we are doing. So that would set a context for my presentation. So I'll just that sets the context and it describes the vision on which we are working on. Now I'd like to deep dive into some of the analysis which we have done to give you a flavor of the work which we are doing at the Department of Commerce. We have been talking about the logistics sector in India over the last 1.5 days, so I need not go into much details. We have also been talking about this number of 14%, 13%. Actually, what this number is also not very clear. We have commissioned a study under the NCAER to come up with that exact number so that we know a baseline on which to work on. But if you look on the right, it is the breakup. 6% is transportation cost, 4% is warehousing, packaging cost, 1% is the administrative cost, and 3% is the inventory cost. In India, if you compare to the rest of the world, inventory cost is very high, and this is attributed to the poor reliability of the supply chain, and that is leading to holding of lot of inventory that is adding to cost. So these are the challenges which are quite well known. Infrastructure is an issue, regulatory hurdles is an issue, submodal optical mix we keep on talking about. It is heavily skewed in favor of railways, in favor of roads. Tariff structure, especially for railways, there is a cross-subsidization taking place between passenger and freight, and skills is an issue. So all this is the work on which we are working on. So this is the components of the National Integrated Logistics Plan: transportation, warehousing, administrative, skilling, technology, rules, regulation, governance. On all these we are working on. This is the approach which we have adopted. On your right, if you will see some of the top products which we have selected, and we want to study the entire value chain and to see where are those interventions and what are those interventions which are required to reduce the costs. We have done the analysis for cement, steel, iron ore, coal, fruits, vegetables, containers, fruit grains, parcels, etc. And I'll give you a snapshot of some of the recommendations which we have now derived. If you look at cement, the logistics cost in India is around 23-25%, while the global benchmark is 12 to 15%. And what are the reasons for this? Poor modal mix, 70 to 72% is road, rail is only 27%, coastal is 1 to 2%. And secondly, bagged versus bulk. In India, it is mostly bagged cement which is being transported, while if you look at the developed economies, it is mostly bulk. So what are those interventions? These are the interventions which are there in between, which are given there, and that would lead to a saving of 3,600 to 4,000 crores per annum. And what are those interventions? Since the time is not, it's short today, I will not go into much details, but in case somebody is interested, he can contact me offline and I'll give you those details. We have identified the specific routes, we have identified these specific locations where secondary warehousing has to be created, where silos have to be created, where coastal shipping can take place, where inland water can take place. So all those detailing has been done, interministerial consultations are on, and hopefully the work will start on all this. Now if we move to iron ore steel, if you look at the logistics cost, 13 to 15% iron ore steel, global benchmark is 10 to 15%, 10 to 11%. So that's the slack which is there in our economy. And these are the 5 interventions which we have identified would reduce the logistics costs. One of the major interventions is the item number 4. If we start transporting iron ore by slurry pipelines, that would give us a savings of 6,500 crores per annum. On our recommendation, now slurry pipelines have also been given infrastructure status, so that would also facilitate long-term credit for slurry pipelines. So here also, it leads to an annual saving of 9,000 crores. The work is already on. On slurry pipelines, as I mentioned, there are certain challenges about land acquisition, but we are talking to railways, to the road ministries, to provide right of way to lay these slurry pipelines. If you look at fruits and vegetables, it is on apples, the logistics cost is 22%, tomato it is as high as 55%, banana it is 60%, And if you look at wastages, 13% for apples, 25% for tomatoes, and banana, it is 18%. So what are those interventions? It is still there. At the center, you'll find 6 interventions which would reduce wastages, which would reduce logistic costs. In fact, we have already started doing pilots at 10 mandis in India, and we'll be coming out with those results very shortly to show you the efficacies of the interventions which we have identified. We are talking to a lot of startups in this area, and there are very good startups which have come up, which are utilizing good technologies to give up low-cost solutions. We have a startup called EcoFrost, which is using solar power to give us low-cost cold storages. We have a startup called CoolNext. They have developed a very low-cost solution which gives you a cold storage facilities at a cost of 4,50,000 rupees. So those are the startups which are working in this sphere, and we are working with them. And our intention is that with these 6 interventions, there will be substantive cost reductions. So now we come to the next issue, which is interstate movement on roads. If you look at this figure, there is a substantive time which is being spent on toll booths, on RTO stoppages, and if we could do something about that, that would facilitate faster movement of trucks on the roads. We have identified 90+ reasons which are still there, which on the basis of which a truck can be stopped en route. 28 could be addressed through automation, 60 could be through visual, and only there are 3 reasons for which you actually have to stop a truck. So how do we automate and reduce that need to stop a truck? One of the simple solutions which is there, and the work is already on. In India now we have a system of e-way bill generation. For any truck which carries a good worth more than 50,000 rupees has to generate an e-way bill. There is another database called Vahan, which is a Ministry of Road database, which has all the details about a truck. And there's another database of Ministry of Road called Sarthi, which has all the details about the vehicle driver. If we integrate e-way bill with Vahan and Sarthi, an e-way bill will get generated only if you fulfill the requirements of the truck or of the driver, then there is no need to stop a truck en route if you have an e-way bill. So that work is already on. So if we integrate all 3, the need for physical examination goes away. So that work is already on. As I mentioned, there is a potential to generate substantive jobs in this sector. These are the certain challenges which we are working with the National Logistics Skill Development Council to develop with new curriculum to take care of the requirements of the skills. It is estimated that by 2030, there will be 50% shortage of truck drivers in this country. So what are we doing about it? How are we incentivizing new training schools to come up? That is also part of our mandate. In the film which you saw, we mentioned about an e-marketplace, a logistics, a national portal, and an e-logistic place. That would be a single window shop for all your logistics needs. Then we are also working on a model warehousing policy. There is presently no standardization of warehousing in the country. We are also working on some of the good interventions which have already taken place in the last few months. Earlier, there was a single registration of the trailer and the trawler. So in case of the horse and the trailer, so in this case, even if a loading and unloading is taking place, the horse had to stand. So that has been now dispensed with. The horse is getting separate registration and the trailer separate registration. So that would facilitate optimal utilization of the assets. We are also working on a multimodal logistics park policy, which would be issued very soon. There is another big intervention which we are working on. We are creating a tool which would monitor the performance of logistics on a real-time basis. So these are some of the interventions. It would facilitate optimizing modal mix. It would also facilitate, it will help us in the right decision making. It will improve connectivity. Through that tool, I can now tell you which is the village which has a connectivity issue. It could also tell you congestion problems. We are talking to Google API and looking at congestion data on a real-time basis, commodity optimization, simplification of processes. We have also developed an app which captures the problems drivers face on a real-time basis, and that is coming to a common database. So these are some of the interventions on which we are working on. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Mr. Swarup. It was really enlightening. I think for everybody, so many steps are being taken, which will all go towards easing the business, which is the main priority today, and with which goes the question of integrated logistics costs, which will come down. It is really wonderful to note action being taken on so many fronts. This, along with the action which Railway is taking of developing the dedicated freight corridor in the DFC, DMIC alignment, a dedicated Delhi-Mumbai industrial corridor, which will create a lot of capacity, will also go in for intermodal optimal transportation modes to be evolved. Now I come to our next speaker, Mr. Ashish Gupta, who is the Regional Logistics Head of Shell India Markets Private Limited. He'll present a customer's perspective from logistics, how the customers feel about it. Various services are available. They are the biggest user of the services. What do they feel is lacking or is not properly projected or not properly available? It will be a good highlight on the constraints that we still have to outline and to be resolved. I'll invite Mr. Ashish Gupta to make a presentation.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It was really heartening for me to see all the initiatives which the government is taking to improve the logistics sector in India. But what comes to my mind is that why are we doing it? We all need to understand what the customer wants. And representing the industry, I also talk about the customer who basically takes the product ultimately. The end customer, which we see, is the 1.2 billion people which live in India, and probably the customers of our industries abroad who take the imported products which are shipped from India. The customer is really simple. He basically wants very few deliverables from us. He wants the right product. He wants the product in the quantity in which he has ordered. He wants it in a perfect condition, in proper packaging, without any damages. He wants the accurate paperwork along with the product. He wants all of this, the product and the postal service as well, at the lowest possible price or the most optimum price. So, these are the parameters which basically deliberate the industry to deliver the solutions. Unless we understand the parameters which the customer wants, we would not be able to develop the solutions. So depending on these requirements of the customer, the industry basically wants certain solutions delivered and they want an integrated logistics setup to deliver these expectations. So having said that, if we go, maybe 5-7 years ago, we did not have any concept of integrated logistics. We did have various service providers providing the service, but it was all in isolation. The kind of standardization was probably at a very low level. We used to have, I have seen those days when the warehouses were called go-downs, and basically a dingy looking truck supplying material from one factory to that go-down where the product is stored, and for maybe months it will be there, and then when the customer demands it, it would ultimately be shipped to him. That is the reason why we have high inventory costs, as was rightly presented in the presentation earlier as well. So from those days now, the time has come when we develop solutions which are end-to-end integrated with the right level of standardization across all the legs of supply chain. When I talk about all the legs, basically that standardization I see is actually missing, and that is the area where a lot of focus needs to be made. Right from the standardization of the ports to the standardization of warehouses, ICDs, then the standardization of the modes of transport, both rail, road, as well as inland waterways. Then the end customer warehousing, the last leg of the warehousing and the supplies to the customer. E-commerce has taught us a lot. The companies like Flipkart and Amazon, the way they are delivering their goods and the kind of standards they have in terms of supply. Basically, if we can replicate that level of standardization across the supply chain for brick and mortar companies, for companies who manufacture traditional goods and all, that would be the game changer. Having said that, I mean, we also need a certain level of visibility. We need a standard KPI monitoring in place so that we can actually tell the customer when the product would be delivered. We need the chain also needs to be a lot more agile and a lot more flexible to the rising and falling demands of the customer. Most of our systems are designed on a particular capacity, and those capacity levels are not, beefed up or removed down according to the expectations of the customer. So these are certain things which needs to be pondered upon when we are developing the policies of integrated logistics. Another challenge which the Indian logistics industry and the overall industry faces in India is the manpower. We do have a lot of people, and we are mostly a labor-intensive industry, whereas the skilled manpower is still, not up to that level. Probably a separate institute, or probably certain courses, or probably certain educational institutes can come up and specifically train people in the sector of logistics, and so that they deliver the requisite levels of service to their customers. Another important factor is the regulations. I really appreciate the government has come a long way. I mean, with the implementation of GST and now the implementation of e-way bill, it has simplified a lot from the perspective of the industry, wherein a company earlier used to be present in probably in all the states to deliver the product to the customer. Now it is basically consolidating and basically improving the standards and delivering from fewer places, which is ultimately adding value to the customer itself in terms of reduction of cost and in terms of standardized service. So all these things ultimately bring us to the point that we all need to be outwardly focused. The industry, the government, and the service providers need to understand the basic requirements of the end customer and deliver solutions accordingly. We basically are lacking in terms of standardization, in terms of visibility, in terms of infrastructure, and which are the challenges in front of us, and various initiatives need to be taken in the direction so as to improve on these parameters accordingly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ashish, for summarizing the customer's expectations so brilliantly. I can tell you, I was in Bombay yesterday on behalf of a group which is importing around 600 containers every month. Over last 3 months, we've been doing exercises of using different service providers, different modes for achieving one particular cost which was given by the customer, and for achieving a particular transit of 8 days. Yesterday, I was a party to this decision. After trying all the costs, we decided to de-stuff the containers in Mumbai and move them by road. I mean, I was the chairman of Container Corporation. I'm representing other 3 logistics industries today, but yet we could not find an appropriate response to the customer. Customer doesn't want to know the alibis, that this could not be done this time because of this could not be done this time because of this. He wants delivery at a price within a time, because for him the inventory costs are very, very important. Mr. Swarup mentioned inventory cost of 3%. Actually, sir, that 3% doesn't really represent the full financial cost of the inventory also. Today, most of the industries are working on their cycles, and therefore they would like to basically have an entire integrated system presented in such a manner that all their concerns are taken care of through the use of technology. We have customers, I don't know what is Mr. Ashish's experience. Customers have different SAPs, and we have our ERPs, and our ERPs and SAPs don't talk to each other. And therefore, there is an additional cost which comes in. We were, as Container Corporation, we were doing movement on behalf of Hindustan Unilever. They have 3 facilities in north, one in Rajpura, one in Baddi, one near Haridwar. These are the 3 places they produce, and they serve entire Indian market from here. We are moving all 3 to a place called Dhappad in Chandigarh, where they had their private warehouses. They had developed their SAPs. Same SAPs were being used by us for delivering the cargo through hubbing, through hub and spoke model. Only one requirement, they had a cost and they said their transit time cannot exceed 7 days. Now, we tried. In transit time, railways helped us by giving us scheduled services, and we were able to meet the challenges. But cost-wise, the cost element could not be controlled. So all these items are very, very important and summarize the customer's expectation. Now I invite Mr. Sanjay Swarup, who is the Director International Business and Director Operations of Container Corporation of India, which is today having a very great market share of more than 75% of movement of international cargo. They've also developed a large number of multimodal logistics parks, especially along the forthcoming DFC route, DFC-DMIC route. As you know, DMIC-DFC route is supposed to have 23 industrial areas which are supposed to come up. This is 150 kilometers on either side of DFC is the DMIC corridor with 23 areas, and those 23 areas have a natural rail link at 6 or 7 locations which CONCOR had identified. There are other organizations who are identifying, and the hub and spoke modeling would go a great way. Mr. Sanjay Swarup has a lot of experience on that. Their company is using a lot of ERPs which can be linked to the national portal. They are already, DMIC is using those RFID tags for tracking all the information. Most of the facilities of CONCOR are being used by DMIC in that portal. With the requirements as mentioned just now by Mr. Gupta, and the software requirements as detailed by Mr. Lim earlier, I would request Mr. Sanjay Swarup to throw light on what are the steps being taken by CONCOR towards integrated logistics provision. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I would like to thank CILT for giving me an opportunity to present my views. I am indeed finding myself very privileged to be part of this distinguished panel. I am the last speaker, so it was good that I got the perspective from our customers also. I will slightly deviate from my presentation, having got so many points on which I can talk. Basically, Ashish mentioned several points, but 3 points that really struck me were, first was standardization of supply chain. Second was predictability in services. Third is infrastructure improvement. These are very, very pertinent points being faced by our logistics industry at the moment. As far as standardization of supply chain is concerned, we at CONCOR are definitely on it. We are going for it, and we are standardizing all our services. Second is predictability in services. At present, it is not possible because Indian railway system on several routes on which we are operating container trains is very, very saturated. Line capacity is saturated, but there is definitely a ray of hope. With the commissioning of dedicated freight corridor, I am very sure that we will be able to give predictability in services also to our customers. Third is infrastructure improvements. As our ex-CMD Mr. Gupta just mentioned, we are developing multimodal logistic parks in the country, and we are now going one step further, going for ILMZ, that is Integrated Logistics and Manufacturing Zones. As Mr. Lim mentioned, technology plays a very important part in logistics industry at the moment. Our company has invested heavily in terms of technology. We are using information technology, IT, based services in a big way. We have developed one CONCOR app 6 months back. Phase 1 of that app has been rolled out, which is being used by our customers. We are now going to launch phase 2 of the app in another 5 months, where we will be moving from single vendor system to multi-vendor system. First time in the history of logistics, like Ola Uber model we will be adopting for logistics, where system will select the vendor and customer will ask for a quote, they will do reverse auction. System will select which vendor is best and that vendor will be assigned the job. We are developing that software and another 5 to 6 months we will roll out that. And I have been talking to my customers and they are very happy. They want that to roll out as fast as possible. Just a few words. Now I will just quickly run through my presentation. In 1955, Malcolm P. MacLean, the father of containerization, thought of intermodalism, that it would be much simpler and quicker to have one container that could be lifted from a vehicle directly onto a ship without first having to unload its contents. As we all know, containerization is the first step towards integrated logistics. Advantages of containerization is it is a first step towards integrated logistics, avoids multiple handling, reduces transit time through quicker cargo handling, ensures substantial savings in packaging cost, and economies of scale at nodes and terminals. And there is a safety and security factor also for the cargo, which leads to better customer satisfaction. In India, because of long intercontinental distances, containerization is a very, very logical thing to do, and Indian Railway is the pioneering role that is playing for cost-effective option for cargo transportation. Indian Railway started door-to-door movement of domestic cargo in special domestic containers in 1966. In 1981, first international container was moved by railways for India's first ICD at Bangalore, which was managed by railways. In 1988, the network had expanded to 7 ICDs, and Container Corporation was set up in 88 as a PSU under Ministry of Railways, and all these 7 ICDs were given to CONCOR to manage. In February 2006, Ministry of Railways opened the movement of containers to private operators, and at present there are 17 container train operators who have got license to operate the container train apart from CONCOR. So there are total 18 operators. And these companies are expected to invest in rolling stock, create necessary infrastructure to facilitate the trade and develop new business. These are the 3 core businesses of CONCOR: carrier, terminal operator, and warehouse operator. Majority of the terminals of CONCOR are rail linked, and we have got a market share of around 75%. We have got a modern rolling stock. Total, we have got 332 rakes, out of which 299 are high-speed rakes, clear to run at 100 km per hour. We have a domestic fleet of containers of around 24,000 containers. And in the year 2017-18, we moved total of almost 40 million tons of containerized cargo by rail. So we are now focusing big time on double stack trains between Khatwas, Pali, and Pipavav Mundra ports. In the year 2017-18, we have moved around 2,300 double stack container trains at our terminals. These are some of the benefits of double stack container trains. It is double efficiency, faster evacuation, lesser cost, and reduce the carbon print. This is the international perspective on double stack container train. In USA, mostly in 1984, this double stack container train was introduced. And now in USA, double stack container train is a norm, and rake length is around 1.5 kilometers to 2 kilometers. And container size varies because mostly it is domestic circuit containers. So it varies from 40 feet to 48 feet to 53 feet, which I carried on such trains. And almost 75% of United States intermodal shipments are carried on such trains. They have combi trains also, in which they carry container as well as break bulk cargo. First double stack train was run in India in March 2006 between Jaipur and Pipavav port of Gujarat, covering a distance of around 950 kilometers. We have a network of 81 terminals spread over the country. Our networks, out of these 81, 50 are dry ports in the hinterland, bringing all port facilities, including custom clearance, to the customer's doorstep. Our terminals provide all the services that are there in dry port, like cargo handling, container storage, custom facilitation, other value-added services. This is the map of our map of the country having our terminals, total 81. We have a mission of creating 100 terminals by 2021. Now, as we talk of integrated logistics, we are graduating from pure terminal operator to ILMZ operator. Initially, we had terminals which were characterized by basic infrastructure required for container handling. That was a limited space for container stacking and a transit warehouse. There was not much scope for providing value-added services because of paucity of space. Gradually, we created warehouses. Then, now, after warehousing, we moved to MMLPs, Multimodal Logistic Park. We introduced the concept of MMLPs, and as Mr. Gupta just mentioned, we have 6 of such facilities at Western DFC, where customer will get all the facilities under one roof, and there were synergies between various stakeholders in the logistics chain. At present, we have total warehousing space of 3.5 million square feet throughout the country. Now, from MMLPs, we are moving to ILMZ. So, ILMZ is the Integrated Logistics and Manufacturing Zone. We are going to set up 6 such facilities in the country. Already, we have signed an agreement, MOU with the Andhra Pradesh government for setting up an ILMZ at Machilipatnam. We will manage the entire inward and outward logistics requirement for this facility for raw material and finished goods, thus enabling companies located there to focus on their core competency of manufacturing. This is the international perspective in warehouses. I have taken the 3 countries, that is China, Brazil, and India. In China, the total warehousing space per capita, that is square feet per capita, is 4.3. In Brazil, it is 3.2, whereas in our country, it is 1.5. So, as we can see, it is almost 3 times lower as compared to China. So, it is significantly lower as compared to developing as well as developed countries. So, there is an indication that we need lot of warehouses, and with the advent of GST, all the more it is required. So, this is a vacuum we have to fill. Like I explained about ILMZ, at present, there is a 2-dimensional concept for any manufacturing zone, manufacturer and consumer. We are adding a 3rd dimension to it. That is, we are going for supply chain logistics, where everything will be there in that zone. Now, just I will mention about our intermodal operations in neighboring countries, which may interest you. We are providing intermodal services to Nepal on a regular basis from 2005. We have been lead partner in operating only rail-linked ICD at a place called Birganj in Nepal. It is being managed by a company called Himalayan Terminal Private Limited, where CONCOR is the lead partner. And we are running container trains from Kolkata port and now Visakhapatnam port also to this facility. This facility has come up very well. It is handling 80 trains every month, in which 45 are container trains and rest 35 are railway trains consisting of iron, fertilizer, cement, etc. At Bangladesh also, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with Container Company of Bangladesh Limited, which is also a subsidiary of Bangladesh Railways. They are attempting to do a similar, to run a similar company as CONCOR in Bangladesh. We are giving technical support to that company, and we have run a demonstration train from our facility, demonstration container train from our facility from Kolkata, that is Majerhat, to a place called Bangbandhu West at Bangladesh, because container train, broad gauge container train at present is not allowed on Bangbandhu Bridge right up to Dhaka ICD because of the axle load restrictions. So train was run up to Bangbandhu West. From there, cargo was carried by road up to the hinterland. We are in talks with Bangladesh government to allow some more commodities for which there is a demand from the trade. And we are hopeful that something positive will come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for describing the various developments which are going to further ease the logistics in India. Now I think we have 10 minutes. I'll open the house. Any questions, please direct them to the respective speakers.
Good morning. I'm Biplov Kumar from DFC. My question is to Mr. Sanjay Swarup. As you have talked a lot about running double stack container trains, and Indian Railway will be an important partner. I think Indian Railway is fraught with many such locations, bridges, tunnels, which don't offer clearance for running double stacks or ro-rows. So what is your take on that? And what kind of future we see for running these kind of trains, covering a larger area, because you are right now restricted to a limited area. Thank you.
See, at present, double stack, you are right. Some routes still have restrictions of ROBs, or at some places it is not possible to run container trains. We are in talk with Indian Railways on a continuous basis, and we have submitted our wish list. Because, for example, we are coming up with a terminal near Ludhiana, which is at a place called Kila Raipur. From there, it is not possible to run double stack train at present, because there are 7 ROBs coming in that area. But Indian Railways is definitely, coming up with some solutions, but it takes some time. So I am very hopeful that wherever there is a potential for cargo or double stack trains, some solutions will be found by railways.
In fact, if I could...
Hi, good morning, panelists. I'm Kanish Kaushik from DLF. I have a question for Mr. Ashish. Basically, he was talking about the standardization of logistic process and the model which Amazon and Flipkart companies are following up. So can you just give some deep insight about it, like what things should be learned from their methodologies, how they're able to deliver so fast as compared to the other entities in India right now?
Yeah, so if we talk about the e-commerce companies, I think the first thing which they have done is that they have invested a lot in their technology. And the standardization, which I was talking about, all their warehouses, all their transporter partner companies, all their employees, even their software systems, their GUI of the website in terms of the web as well as on the app are very much standardized. The service which you will get probably in Chennai would be as good as the service which you would get probably in Gurgaon. The warehouse which you see in Chennai would be similar as compared to Gurgaon. All the facilities, if you talk about WMS, the barcoding of the stuff, the kind of vehicles which they would use, the kind of training they would give to the driver, all those things are very much standardized across all the legs of their chain and across all the places in which they operate in. Whereas if I see a manufacturing company which has its roots in India, would get a different kind of service from a different player. If I talk about my organizations, the various organizations which I have worked with, if we are importing a raw material, then making a product, then sending it to our internal warehouse, and then ultimately delivering to the customer, I am probably working with maybe 7 to 8 different kind of service providers who are in turn working with hundreds of service providers. Just to give an example, the warehouse in Jaipur, if he's serving to Rajasthan, currently would be working with minimum 50 parcel load transporter companies who would have their own systems in place, their own people, their own management, their own processes and all those things. So this is the difference between the standardization and visibility of a e-commerce company versus a traditional manufacturing company in India. And if we have to deliver a similar level of service to the customers across India, then Obviously, the first thing is the infrastructure and the support which we get from the backbone, the ports, the railway authorities, the roads, and the various other statutory and the government regulatory companies. And the second is the kind of service providers which come in the market. Probably with FDI in the logistics sector, logistics becoming an industry in itself, we would see a lot of change in this sector. Historically, we have been very, I would say, unconventional or very fragmented in terms of the service which we get from the service providers. So that is the point I wanted to. I hope you have answered. Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, in that event, I thank the panelists for being a part of this discussion. Thank you, audience, for bearing with us. Thank you.
A massive thank you to all our speakers and our chair for the excellent conduct of the session. Your advice, your feedback, it was very, very much appreciated. कहते हैं जब कोई स्पीकर मंच पर बोलता है तो वो अपनी एनर्जी जो है वो आप तक ट्रांसफॉर्म करता है. सिमिलरली वो एक्सपेक्ट करता है कि आप भी वो एनर्जी वहाँ तक ट्रांसफॉर्म करें, या चाहे क्वेश्चन आंसर्स के थ्रू, या आपके चेहरे पे एक सुंदर सी मुस्कान हो, या जोरदार तालियों से एक बार वो एनर्जी आपको आपके स्पीकर्स तक मिलनी चाहिए. Thank you very much. But before we end the proceeding, we are so happy to announce that we have an international guest amongst us. Shri Radzak Abdul Malek, President-elect CILT International. We are so delighted with your presence. Yes, what we have in store for you is truly unmissable. Before I invite him on stage, I would like to give you a brief about him. Radzak Abdul Malek had gone through a complete cycle of KTMB since 1972 to 2009. During his tenure as MD of KTMB from 2008 to 2009, he launched the transformation to turn around the company from red to black. He is a person with full of experience in various positions in the past 37 years of his experience with KTMB. He also held several positions in various social organizations. He was also an active member of the Malaysian Logistic Council for MITI, Vice President of Malaysian Professional Center BIM, President of Malaysian Service Provider Confederation MSPC, and all other several transport and logistic fraternity. He is also the independent advisory panel member to the Honorable Minister of Transport Malaysia on Safety, Board of Advisor to Malaysian Institute of Transport. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Radzak Abdul Malek, elect President, CILT International. I would like to call upon our international guest to come upon the dais and give his comments and remarks. Please give a huge round of applause for Radzak Abdul Malek, President-elect, CILT International. I request, sir, to kindly share your views, your comments.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all of you. Mr. Sri Shanti Narayan, former member of Traffic Railway Board as a National Chairman of CILT India, Vice Chairman Dr. Veni, Dr. Pradeep Kumar, and Mr. Rajan. Invited guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Now, first of all, I did not fit into the overall panelists because I'm supposed to have my presentation yesterday, but unfortunately my visa was delayed for 1 day. And I almost give up coming to India until at 2 a.m. local time in Kuala Lumpur, I received my e-visa. And quickly I packed my bag and, I'll go to the airport and all that. It's difficult to come to this beautiful and great and strong country, India. Well, people are saying, if it is a good thing that you are going, it's difficult to come. And I really experienced it, anxiety, and all that, almost frustrated, but at last, the government of India grant me a visa. For whatever reason, it is okay for me, but today I'm here in front of you. Now, I would like to share some of my thoughts. When I was given an opportunity to speak in this conference or seminar, someone in Malaysia asking me, are you going to talk about railways? Now, when that lady chairman was talking about KTMB, KTMB means in Malaysia, Kereta Api Tanah Melayu, Berhad. It means Malaysian Railway Corporation Limited. And I was there for 37 years, starting my career as a station master in one of the small towns, somewhere in north of Kuala Lumpur. And after 37 years, I end up to be the managing director of KTMB. So anybody in the railways, if you have a person like me, I already tasted, all the ranks, while I'm going up and all that. But when they asked me to talk about railways in this seminar, I said no, because I feel very small talking, about railway business in India, because India helped us a lot, especially IRCON, Indian Railway Constructions. They give us, locomotive, which you all doesn't want to use, and we are using there and all that. So I better don't talk about railway. Although some of the things that you are talking about railways, like going to Bangladesh, going to Nepal, I have done it going through 3 countries, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. And I coined the word land bridge. And that was my achievement when I was in the railways until I retired in 2009. But today, I would like to talk about something got to do with our experience in looking at the future of the seaport. And the title of my presentation is Smart Digitalization of Green Seaport Logistics from the perspective of Malaysia. Perhaps you have been listening to many things about India and all that, and I think I'm duty-bound also to tell you what is happening to your neighboring countries, although we are not that near, but we are, although we are that far, but we are actually very near, because the 3rd largest population in Malaysia is Indians from India. Of course, not North Indian, but mostly the Tamilians, from South India. Anyway, now, let me go. Okay. Now, why I'm talking about seaport? Because when you talk about logistics and transportation, you cannot run away to the fact that 80% of the global trade by volume being carried on board of ship and vessels throughout the world. And if you look at the position of Malaysia, we are strategically positioned as a shipping trading nation, because if you look at the shipping line, it becomes reddish, and it goes into Strait of Malacca. And the strait, if you look at the importance of the maritime, and Malaysia, it is obvious that the position in Malaysia in the sea route, especially at the Strait of Malacca, the most congested and dangerous passage of sea route, because that is the only passing passage that you have to connect from the west to the east. So we were talking about 3 or 4 years ago, when we have the biggest economies in the world like China and the second biggest economy in the world like India, we were blessed to be in the center of the pendulum, where the movement of China-India trade, is passing our beloved country. So Malaysia is looking forward to see how that pendulum move from east to west to Malaysia. Now let's go to the next one. Now these are the overview of Malaysian seaport. 100,000 vessels pass through Strait of Malacca each year, accounting for about 1/4 of the world's traded goods. And actually a lot of congestions. If you are not a very experienced captain, piloting the vessel, it could be very dangerous. And at the same time, a lot of pirates also, because so many, things for them, to look into. Yeah. Now, when we talk about Malaysian seaport, we have about 17 ports, 8 ports authorities, 7 container ports, with a total volume of throughput of 24 million TEUs in 2017. I do not know. To me, it is too much for a small country like us to have 17 ports. But everybody seems to look at, that their place, because we are surrounded by sea like you all also, then they think that, we touch the sea line, they wanted to have port. But we have 3 tiers of ports. The biggest are the West Port, North Port, and the Port of Tanjung Pelepas down south, as you can see, the south. Then you have the second tier, that is Penang Port, Johor Port, and Kuantan Port on the east coast. Then the rest follow all the ports that you have around Borneo Island, on the eastern side of. Now this is our Prime Minister. His name is Tun Mahathir and his nickname is Tun M. He is the oldest Prime Minister in the world, 93 years old. He was the Prime Minister of Malaysia for 22 years as a Prime Minister, 4th Prime Minister, and came back to power last May and become a 7th Prime Minister. And what he says, high technology sector plays an important role in driving economic growth. Our mastery of technology will provide us with the strength and capacity to be a leader and not a follower. Now let me explain to you a little bit the long road, the future, of Industry 4.0, the digitization of every aspect of business. This is what we are looking at in Malaysia. Of course, if you look at the history in 1800, we call it Industry 1.0. It's about the invention of mechanical production powered by water and steam. Then 100 years after that, you have Industry 2.0, about mass production and machine powered by electricity and combustion engine. Then after 70 years, we see the Industry 3.0, where electronic, IT, industrial robotics, and advanced automation is coming. But on 2015, when Industry 4.0 came in, everybody was not ready, actually. Everybody was not aware. And that is where, you have this digital supply chain, smart manufacturing, digital product, services, business, data analytics actions. And also, you can see that that is a place where they introduce 3D printing, AI, artificial intelligence, IoT, blockchain, etc., etc., etc. Now, but why I'm saying this? Because while we are talking about 4.0, some of the countries and some of the people are not adopting it fully. The industry is already talking about 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, and even 8.0. And same thing like 3PL, you know, the third-party logistic provider, while we are talking about 3PL and 4PL, the industry is already talking about 5PL, 6PL, 7PL, and 8PL. Now, these 6PL, 7PL, 8PL and all that came about, you know, in a very short time, and they'll never warn you. Same thing like Industry 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, 8.0, but they will never come and warn you. It doesn't take 100 years, you know, from now, then only the Industry 5.0 will come. It'll just come on the 11 hours. You are not aware about it and it's coming. And it's so destructive sometimes you are caught. And that is why it is important that beyond 2030, what we are going to look at is the ecosystem will be digital. That's about all. And you have to be ready to embrace, you know, and I think my friend from Blujay should, you know, agree with me that after 4.0, when Uberization caught our taxi drivers, you know, their pants down, you know, all this destructive technology and all that, then all people know, oh, that is IR 4.0. Then what about the AI and all that, you know? I do not know about India. What is your population now? Is it 1.2 billion, 1.4 billion? Now, someone was telling about robotic warehouse and all that. I know that Alibaba, in his central, warehouse, where he earned billions of, you know, dollars and all that every day, you know, the people who are working, the human that, you know, the people that works in that, Alibaba, central logistic warehouse, is only about 60 people. The rest are run by robots. You know, for CILT, the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, as much as we want to embrace technology, but as a professional body, we also want to look at the good and the bad and the ugly side of technology. Someone from Indonesia, when we had a conference in Bangkok, was saying, you know, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to introduce, you know, robotic and all that. Then I said, what happened to your young people, your young boys? They are standing outside the, the fence of the warehouse, looking at the robot running about, carrying, you know, the goods and all that, and they are just standing, looking from outside the fence, and don't earn anything. It's just no time that they will just break the fence and go into. It's unfair. So sometimes when you talk about, while people are now, you know, they are spinning their head and all that to look at IR 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, you must remember we should be selective in getting. I'm not trying to slow down whatever industrial revolution is. Like for instance, 3D printing. I know for the fact that a 3D printing have done wonderful to a young girl where the doctor is using exactly her heart and do it and printed it in 3D printing, and then he start, you know, doing the operation on the 3D printing itself until such time that they are very confident of their, you know, whatever their surgery, whatever they are doing, their practice and simulation, then they will do it to the young girl's actual heart. And the surgery was so, so perfect and so precise that they only took 5 hours instead of normal 13 hours of operation time. And it was a very successful operation. And today, the young girls live happily ever after. So that is 3D printing. But at the same time, if you have 100 people, 100 young boys running about, dispatch boy, trying to distribute iPhone to the customer and all that, with the 3D printing, you know, you pay through online and they give you the, the blueprint and you start printing it. through the computer and your iPhone X coming out. You know, your iPhone X coming out, then you don't need to have a dispatch boy. So where are these dispatch boys are going to earn their living? This is the question that perhaps, you know, some people think that we are not accepting the industry. We are accepting the industry, but at the same time, as long as we are the people who control the movement and the development industry, the choice of the what we call technology must be really being done properly so that it will not affect, you know, the other parts of the, our life, part of our life. That is, you don't want to be destructive to people who are supposed to earn. Thailand, for instance, these are what we call life example. Thailand, they are very clever, they are very smart. They see that if the job can be done by their own people, then better give to their own people. Not that they don't want to do the technology, to introduce that technology. They have that technology, but sometimes they use their own people because the young people need money, they need income, they need, you know, a steady, what you call, income stream, you know. They have to have money, you know, for them to spend all that. And at the same time, you know, with the money they have the power of purchase, and at least whatever you sell, they will buy, you know, the economy will develop and all that. But perhaps in Malaysia, since we have about 2 to 3 million foreign workers, maybe I think technology is very important for us. Singapore, for instance, you know, they need the technology because they don't have the manpower to do the job. Like what you call, like us, if we adopt technology, perhaps there are a lot of our brothers, you know, about 3 million of them will have no job because over taken by the technology. That can be done. Otherwise, like your country, like Indonesia, like China, you all have a lot of mouths to feed and all that. Let's be wise in choosing the technology. Okay? There are good things, but at the same time, they could be destructive also. All right? Now, I'll go to the National IoT Strategy Roadmap. I just want to show certain important things that we want to see that the economic impact of this IoT, if we are doing it, global will be about what? The employment job creation can be about 14,270 people, and intellectual property will be 146. I think that are all the things that we want to say. But at the same time, impact of IoT is today is only about 143.7%. You know, it will go up to 280% and all that. And then you look at the communication, you know, and networking increased by 5%. Things, hardware, power and protocol will be 10%. App services analytics will be 80%. Component or IoT computing storage will be going 5%. These are our national IoT strategy maps and overview. Now, company that leads a digital transformation of their business are 26 more profitable than the industry average. These are the good things about what we call IR 4.0, because it motivates the company, less cost, but better margins, you know, in doing their job. Then impact of seaport logistics, I think these are also applicable to other business. You talk about digitalization to change the landscape, redefine the way of doing business, understand consumers' demand, keep pace with the advancement of digital technology, interoperability. I think these are the things that you all are talking about, information transparency, technical assistance, and decentralized decision making. I think these are some of the things that I think you all have spoken. Yeah, I just show you something about robots, in the warehouse management. But however, this will eliminate, the utilization of manpower. Then, okay, cost of seaport inefficiency. Now, according to the report, USD 17 billion wasted annually in ocean container supply chain. Why? Because inefficient storage plan, poor vessel performance and vessel voyage performance, inefficient seaport logistics system. Because lengthy custom relief procedure, cumbersome administrative arrangement, lack of integration of various processes involved in trade, logistics, and cargo, and also equipment breakdown. This is where the technology come in to help us. So there are a lot of things that the technology is actually shaping up us, to make us more efficient and fruitful in what we are doing. Now, what do they do in improving the efficiency? Like I show some example, like Hamburg Port Authority. They're using automatic container yard operation, single window ship clearance, global port connectivity, digitalization. I just want to comment about this single window ship clearance. Yeah, Singapore is doing it. And Indonesia now is really, even setting up, they call it what, single window department and all that, to collaborate with all sectors and all that, to make sure that they get one single window decision, because you want to make it fast in terms of logistic decision and all that. Now, to me, maybe Hamburg Port, yes, because it is what? Interport trade port, or is a transshipment port. Singapore is a transshipment port. But to Malaysia, it's a bit difficult, because you know why? Because the last, what you call mile, will be the interland of Malaysia. So what worries us is when we are the final, what you call destination, like, what do they declare actually? Because what was declared in Singapore, the custom doesn't have to declare in Malaysia. Okay? But the problem is, when Singapore declare that container, it is within the seaport area. But when it goes into Malaysia, then we don't have to declare, but if it come out from the seaport area, then we do not know where it goes. We do not know where it goes, and we do not know what is inside there, because we don't check. It's being checked by this kind of single window ship clearance. So that's a risk, especially like in India. That's a risk of it, But if it is within, if we are the port within like Singapore, it is a transshipment port, it's okay. But when it comes to our country, we have to also inspect, because we do not know what is inside. If everybody in this world are truthful, sincere, they declare what is actually, then suddenly, if some people, they don't declare properly, it could be contraband, goods inside and all that, and we just use single window ship clearance and we are in trouble. All right? Okay. Now, what about PSA? PSA, Port of Singapore. They are using the connection between the physical and digital, bringing the flows together to ultimately improve cargo flow. Then Rotterdam Port, yes, they are using Pronto. Cikarang Dry Port Indonesia, they are using MyCDP. And Malaysia are using U-Customs, Port Tangnet, E-Gateway, so on and so forth. Now, a little bit more, Smart Digital Green Port definition. I think 4 things there. Smart Seaport is based on intelligence. Digital Seaport means extension of Smart Port, concept, manage congestion. Green Seaport Logistics, that is based where energy reduction, environment protection, environmental care. And number 4, Smart Digital Green Approach, the most comprehensive effort to address environmental issue so that while we are operating a seaport, increase business competitiveness and profitability and enhance social relationship and well-being towards the word here is sustainability. Yeah? All right. What is sustainability according to UN definition? It meets the need of the present without sacrificing the ability of future generation. Okay? Now, these are the smart port technologies link the entire seaport ecosystem that we are doing. What are the roles of port stakeholders in the interland connection and port infrastructure? You know, it just go around. Yeah? It means we are talking about supply chain and value chain, you know, will not break, and there will be no deficit area in terms of the value change. These are the typical maritime logistic change. It is automation, mechanization, equipment process system. Now, this is customer-centered seaport. To me, I just want to sum it in one simple word. Whatever you do, how sustainable it is, how profitable it is, how efficient you are. Yeah? Another thing that we are also talking about KPI now. I don't know whether India has got a logistic KPI. If you have, I do not know how much. You know, from time the customer call, I want to send one container, until, you know, it is, you know, the captain of ship give the, what they call, the letter of, this one signed bill of, how many? Bill of lading. Bill of lading, how many days it takes? So around 4 days. Yeah? Around 4 days. 4 days. Approximately. Yeah. See, when Professor Rus Bunamyong, what they call, he's the specialist from World Bank. Unfortunately, Malaysia doesn't have, at that time, Malaysia doesn't have a KPI. But Philippines has got a KPI. Indonesia has got a KPI. And Philippines at that time, that was, I was talking about 2 years ago, Philippines KPIs took 9 days from calling and sending it to, you know, loaded into the vessel and signing a bill of lading. 9 days. Everybody laughed. Well, 9 days. Well, why is this? What are they doing actually 9 days? You know, why is it so difficult to do it? Why is it, you know, so long? So I just said to them, now look, Malaysia, how many days? You are laughing at Philippines because 9 days Malaysia? Malaysia no KPI. That's why you laugh at people. You don't have KPI. Now we have KPI. After that we have KPI. But 4 days, you give a big hand of applause to India. They have KPI of 4 days. You must give them. It's not easy to get 4 days. Huh? Okay. Now, whatever it is, smart digital green seaport logistics are digital based. Multi-stakeholder system and in sustainable manner. Seaport stakeholders can use this approach and technologies to reconfigure basic function and improve existing operations, to re-engineer how work gets done without major investment in new infrastructure and equipment. How good you are, how profitable you are, how modern and how progressive you are, the more important thing is the customer need. Okay, someone was saying it. You can be the best operator in the world, but if you don't fulfill the requirement of customer, you are nothing. So today we are talking about customer-centered seaport logistics. Thank you very much. So any question? One or two questions?
I'm a retired signal engineer from the railways. You talked about Industry 4.0, 5.0, and 6.0. Ultimately, are we getting prepared for electronic warfare? It's very easy to infect all the robots and you lose the battle. All the advancement you make would just end up in a chaos. Are we getting ready for such a scenario?
I'm not the proper person to, to answer. We have our friend Joseph here. But this is what I'm trying to say. But nevertheless, while we are not embracing it, they're still continuing doing it. The problem is you see, the world today need all these, technologies to drive on whatever activities they're doing. Now, one of the good thing about technology, like online business, for instance, online business spring up like mushroom. I had a talk from the fraternity of engineering. Today I'm talking with the logistics, fraternity of engineering. And when they are talking, they were so, they were so proud about the engineering achievement, and even list out who are the best engineering consultant in the world who have earned the highest revenue. And it happened to be one consulting engineer in New York called EdCom, and the revenue that they are getting a year is $25 billion. Everybody was amazed, it's so much. And that is the most successful. Then came, somewhere in UK, Japan, Norway, and all that. But this guy from New York earned 25 billion a day. So I was the only logistician in that big fraternity of engineering in Malaysia. And when they are talking like that, and then I start taking my smartphone and looking at the Googles and all that. So nobody, ever realized. But unfortunately, at that point in time, they never asked, the public like this, open for question. They just give to certain people. But after some time, I just told the owner, the organizer, the moderator, I said, why are you not allowing me to ask question? What question do you want? No, I just want to tell you, if your engineer earn 25 billion a year, I just want to say on the 11 November, 11/11/2017, at 105, Alibaba raised 17 billion US, and at the turn of the day, 24 hours, they raised 25 billion US one day. Is Alibaba an engineering company or a logistic company? They keep quiet. So that is the money that we people are talking about. That is the huge sum of money. Although I'm talking about Alibaba, 25 billion a day as compared to engineering who can earn 25 billion a year. So online and all that is very important. Technology is very important. Maybe you can say something.
I'm not a software. I'm not a software engineer, so I do apologize. but I think like what we say, I think data security is important. So from an onset, I think data security is important. So I think that there is compliance, there is checks, there is security that needs to be in place in order for your data, for our data to be safe. So seriously, I think all governments, even in the logistics space, we're talking about systems as well, that there is certain so-called industry standards that we all adhere to, even on simple things, right? Like on the cloud. Let's say, for example, we are hosting our emails on the cloud with Gmail and so forth, Microsoft 360 and so forth. So all these needs to be secured.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now I would request the chair, Shri Anil Gupta, to felicitate our international guest, Shri Mr. Radzak. I would request the chair to felicitate our speaker, Mr. Joseph Lim, Sales Director, Blujay Solutions. Shri Anant Swarup, Joint Secretary, Logistics, Department of Commerce and Industry. Okay. Shri Sanjay Swarup, Director, International Marketing and Operations, CONCOR. And Shri Ashish Gupta, Regional Logistic Head, Shells India Markets Private Limited. Thank you so very much. and you're requested to join us for a tea break, which is for 15 minutes. I request Madam Veni to felicitate our chairperson, Shri Anil Gupta, former CMD CONCOR.